Alright everybody, welcome back. We have the, yet again, Para Ordnance 1911 1445. This is the limited model. In our last video, we replaced the slide release lever that you see here. The original was worn down and it looked like somebody had been messing with it and it was causing the weapon to lock open. So in comparison, here's the old one compared to the new. A little bit different in style and design, but what I can tell you is that, like we showed you in the previous video, if you haven't seen that one already, there is a significant amount of wear here on the pin itself, and then here it looks like somebody physically got a Dremel tool and kind of rounded this off, and it was causing it to catch in the open position and lock open when it shouldn't be. Same thing as here, there's a bunch of wear, so we got rid of that and we replaced it with a Wilson Combat slide release lever, and we haven't had any problems since. The one thing I did read up on online was that the Para Ordnance extractors are also a problem, so we're going to preemptively replace that. We're going to go with the EGW solid one-piece extractor, which we have here, and we'll show you why we're getting rid of the stock original here in a moment. So first thing we do, we're obviously going to check the firearm. It's empty. We're going to begin disassembly on said firearm. I'm going to push down and rotate, removing the spring like so. And then we're going to move the slide back to the disassembly notch, and this should just press right out. Just like that, pops right out. Like I said, this is the Wilson Combat bulletproof model. This has been fantastic thus far, and I only had 2 failures to feed as opposed to every other round with the old slide release in the weapon. So we're going to separate the frame and the slide, and we'll take everything out, right like so. And you're gonna have to forgive me, this weapon was just oiled, so it's kind of slick. So now once your barrel's removed, you've got all your parts set off to the side. Give me a moment here to clean my hands. You have the extractor here at the rear of the firearm that we are going to remove. And the way we do that with these Series 80 slides is you have to depress the pin that is on the slide itself, which will allow you to, at the same time, push the firing pin in and remove the firing pin stop. Get a bit thinner of a punch here, so possibly swap these two, right like so. And once we have that pin, the firing pin itself, pushed down, we can remove the slide stop or the firing pin stop. One thing you want to be careful of is putting your finger over it, because once you release the tension, you don't want to have your firing pin go all across the room on yourself. So we've got the firing pin stop out of the weapon. We're going to push down on the firing pin spring that is in the slide itself, and the firing pin pops right out. Now this should give us the ability to get the extractor out itself. So we're going to push down on the plunger again to remove ejector. Alright, that's out. Now, pulling this out, I want to show you guys the sheer size of this. Now, the reason that we're replacing this ejector is that if you look online, these ejectors have a known issue with failure, and they're actually in two pieces, and it's a spring-loaded mechanism here that prevents you from having to tension the extractor itself. So the downside is, yes, with this model, you're going to have to tension it and make sure that it goes into the firearm and ejects the rounds properly. But the plus side is that these are proven to have less of a failure issue. Obviously, metal parts are going to break. However, this, from what I read from people that have owned Paratechs in the past, have had a lot of problems with the extractor itself malfunctioning, breaking, not cycling the weapon, causing failures to feed, that kind of thing, and that's what we're trying to avoid with this firearm. Alright, we've reassembled the slide. We have the new extractor in. We have it tensioned, and by that we just have to bend it more so inwards than outwards so that it keeps the round snug. It doesn't, keep it jammed up in there. We're going to reassemble the firearm and cycle it and make sure that it ejects the rounds, and we should be good to go. Alright everybody, it is done. We have replaced the Paratech PTX, or the Power Extractor as they're called from the factory. These are an oversized extractor, and they've actually got some spring tension to them. You can see right there, I just popped it apart, and that may be part of the problem with these things as to why they have to be replaced. So basically all we had to do was disassemble the firearm, replace that, and we got our new extractor from EGW, which is actually a local company near me in Quakertown. So I'm excited to see how the weapon functions. The only thing I will say is that the new extractor was not tuned, and when they say it's not tuned, it just had to be bent in or out a certain amount in order for the extractor to grab the rim of the cartridge and cycle. My first go around putting it in, I aimed it too far inward and it was causing some lockup in the slide. I took it back apart, put it back together, and it is cycling just as it needs to. There's no issues whatsoever. So I'll probably take this to the gun range tomorrow and make sure that the extractor functions as it should under pressure and repetitive use. The only thing that we're waiting on to finish this project is the magazines for this firearm. I'm thinking the springs are a little bit worn out, and that might be another reason why we're having misfeeds and failures to cycle and whatnot. So I bought two brand new magazines from an outside company that obviously they're going to be new upon arrival, and we'll see if that rectifies all the problems with the 1911 that we've had thus far. I do think though that the main issue was this slide release lever. Like I said before, the old one here is very worn on the pin itself and then on the catch, and since replacing this part I've not had as many misfeeds as I did originally with this firearm. So I think this was 98% of the problem, and the extractor that we just probably broke and replaced is just one thing I wanted to rule out, as well as the magazines. The extractor itself from EGW was $50 plus shipping, so maybe $60 total. And then the magazines themselves, I just don't want to misfeed or have any issues with. So I bought two different magazines just to see which ones function better in the firearm. But like I said, I think the main problem was this slide release lever. We fixed that. I took it out to the range the other day, put 100 rounds through it. only had 2 malfunctions, and I think they were related to the springs in the magazine. So once I get the magazines replaced, we'll take it out again. I'll take it out tomorrow and see how it functions with the new extractor in, and we will go from there. But this series on this Para Ordnance 1911 is just about wrapped up, and we've got it back to being a reliable firearm. Alright everybody, so like I said, the power extractor, or the PTX, that Para Ordnance 1911 comes with, has some issues, we'll call it, that have been plaguing that firearm through just reviews on the internet and people who've been having similar problems to what I have had with this firearm. This was a precautionary replacement. The firearm did cycle. You can see in the previous video up on our channel, Chapter 4 I believe it is, of the saga of the Para Ordnance malfunctions, that the last 3 or 4 magazines that we put through the gun, it functioned flawlessly. I do believe that slide lock lever was the original problem. Preemptively, we did the extractor just now in the beginning portion of this video, and we're going to swap out magazines just to ensure that we hit all of our bases. I want this firearm to function. You can never say that a firearm is going to function 100% and not have an issue, but I want it to function as flawlessly and mechanically sound as humanly possible. We originally thought, maybe this weapon was just dirty. It really was when I first got it. I didn't realize how crudded up it actually was until we got into it after its first malfunction on the range, where it would load around and then jam trying to put a second round back into battery. And that was every single round. We're to the point now where this gun is basically performing the way it should have right out of the box. We've played with different type of ammunition. We've had hollow points. We'd have FMJs. I might bring some defense rounds to the range tomorrow, but those are really expensive. I don't want to shoot through as many of those. Maybe just try a couple and see how they cycle through the firearm. Tomorrow we're going to go to the range, like I said, and just make sure that extractor functions the way that it should. Because this is my first time ever tuning one, I want to make sure that I did it correctly and that it's not an issue with my gunsmithing or my inabilities or abilities at that. But like I said, it fired, or I shouldn't say it fired, it cycled snap caps. I tried it 5 times, no problems whatsoever. So we'll try it with live rounds tomorrow and go from there. I'm still waiting on the magazines. Like I said, I ordered those a few weeks ago, and I'm about to call the company and see if they're just on back order or whatever the case may be. But I'm 99% confident that the slide lock lever plus that extractor is going to fix any mechanical issues, and the magazines may just need new springs. But I wanted to try a different company than what I have with the firearm, the stock Para Ordnance magazines that came with the gun. I do have 2 stock magazines that are brand new in the container, or I'm sorry, in the plastic that they came in, the original bags. I might open those up tomorrow and cycle those instead and see if maybe the newer magazines, or the new old stock I should say, rectify any of the feeding issues as well. And we're going to go from there. Should you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment box. I'm normally pretty good about getting back to people. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Thanks again, and thank you for watching.